What's up guys, Will here with Renthusiast, and in this video the owner of this really cool custom built Porsche 911T is going to take us through his car. He's going to talk to us about the build process, what it was like when he found the car. He's going to take us through the transformation, and then of course you're going to get tons of footage of what this car looks like today. So a little backstory here for you. Last weekend I hosted my very first Renthusiast Air Cooled Classic drive and meetup in Raleigh, North Carolina, and because my friend Howie, who owns this 911T, lived nearby and attended the event, I decided to spend a few hours with him, having him take us through this car. So if I am perfectly honest with you, when I first saw the car, yes, I was intrigued, but I truly didn't understand it, appreciate it. But after having the chance to spend some time around the car, after driving the car, and frankly after editing this video and spending a lot of time looking at the images of this car, I totally get it now. Like, this is a true hot rod, very special car, and very well done. The most surprising thing about this car that you're going to find is that it is currently for sale. So at the end of this video I'll tell you a little bit more about how to inquire about the car, but in the meantime I'm going to ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video. Let's get into the content. All right guys, today's interview is on one of the more interesting cars I've seen in my community. I'm joined by Howie, who has this 72T Targa, and it's a wide body. It's got a very interesting story. So, you know, when I saw it, he and I rolled together. When I saw this car, I just had to get it on the channel. So Howie, tell us about this car.
Well, I've had this car since 2018. Car came out of California. The backstory is a CBS executive, and from the work I have done, it seems to be in the late 90s, modified the car before the Singer evolution occurred, put some steel fender flares on and some other mods that have been updated since I've had it. It's a T, but it's got a 3-liter hot rod motor in it. It just kind of tickled me a little bit to get this car. It was in great shape when I got it, no issues with rust because of the great California climate. It just had some areas where it had some fade in the clear coat and just needed some love with the paint, so I went ahead and restored all of the paint. Didn't have to do much with any of the metal work, but it did have some things, and I'll walk around the car and show you some things I've done since I've had it, starting with this quarter panel here. The car originally had some 964 flares, and it had a trim piece that went along the bottom from G-body style cars, which really didn't fit the style I was looking for. So I was able to source from DC Motors right here in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, original quarters for the car, both sides. I just got lucky. Rob, who's a great guy over there at DC Auto, took care of me, and we were able to masterfully incorporate it in and get the style that we wanted. I also when I got the car, had some issues with how they had set up the bumpers. The car had a what looked like a barbecue piece. Looked like it needed the logo Weber right about here. Had a big chunk of metal here with some that was just kind of tacked on in a kind of corny way. I was able to source an original long hood front bumper and was able to put in metal appropriate piece in that section. Was lucky to find that from Chuck Miller's place up in Hillsboro. And while I was there, I also did some other modifications. I put in some grills where the lighting is, and I also put in a rubber lip to reduce some airflow, at least in my head, maybe not functionally, but at least I like the way it looks, under the car and streamline things. I went ahead and redid the interior as well. I found these amazing seats from another driving buddy who's out of New York. These are one-offs that came out of Stefan's place at GTS Classics. They're amazingly light aluminum seats, and Stefan purchased just for this car only, and then he's using it for other stuff that he has. This was a one-off, the aluminum turning tool that was used in a lot of the timing devices that you'll see in the clocks of that era, which was incorporated into this car. I was able to purchase these seats from another long hood air-cooled Porsche driver, and the car already had a Wevo shifting mechanism in the front. I added the more accurate cup link in the back, added the birch wood shift knob, the door panels. These door panels had SC door panels on them when I got the car, which was really not in character with the rest of the car. I went ahead and did this work myself. The features, it has electric windows, which is nice. If you want to lower the windows, you don't have to deal with reaching over. And put these SC door cards in and then finish them with the basket weave material, which matches the seats and the dash. The motor was a whole other bag of worms. That came out of a race car that was well known in this area, raced up at VIR. It's a 3-liter, but it was not tuned for the street. So everyone thinks, I thought myself, kind of relatively new and a student of the game in this wonderful hobby. Oh man, a race motor, that would be great to have in my car, but it's really not practical. And we switched it out to a brand new 964 cam.
So let me ask you, like, when you say it's really not practical, like, what was the experience like to drive it that said, hey, where you said, hey, I don't want to do this?
Right, so it was just not if you're in some traffic or just going at low idle, stop sign to stop sign or anything like that. It just didn't idle smoothly at low RPMs, and it just didn't really, wasn't really drivable for the street. It needed to be up humming probably around 5,000 RPM, what you'd be running on the racetrack. To be happy. We went through the motor, basically with an open checkbook, said, hey, whatever it needs. The car had, solid compression and leak down numbers, and we worked on the CIS system, and these SC motors are notorious for going, 200,000 miles as long as you drive them regularly. Really reliable setup. So that's been really enjoyable to have a car with that motor. My other car has a 3.2 later motor in my Carrera, my 84, so it's a little different. This car revs up super fast. You got to pay attention to your revs or have a rev limiter, or else you'll have an expensive surprise.
Well, I'll tell you this too, man, just following you over here, it sounds fantastic.
Thank you. And then the exhaust was all customized. This is a powder coated exhaust that I got at some megaphones with cookie cutters, and this was modified onto a dance exhaust. And when I got the car, it had pea shooters, which went out, no joke, to right about here. And when you looked at the car, you said, oh my God, is that a wheelbarrow? And you just want to pick it up and like walk with it somewhere. So it was something that I thought would be fitting to the car, and a nod to the 904s and the Porsche historic racing cars from the early 70s. And we Cerakoted it to manage heat, and then dimple dyed the bottom here of the rear panel just to continue to dissipate some heat, and that's worked out real well. A lot of these cars, you'll see bubbling of the paint just right up through here because just so much heat is absorbed in that area.
So let me ask you this, just while I got this angle back here. Tell me about the handling on this car, because I got to believe that wide rear end shows up somehow.
Yeah, good question. So this car, the previous owner had done some great things, which also, when I was introduced to the car from the fellow who found it, who was working on my current car, he was impressed with the fact that the car had SC rear components put in for suspension. So that was an upgrade. It also has power assist disc brakes from an SC. And it has the SC actual brakes on the car. In addition to steel line brakes. And so the car handles wonderfully. There's always some little tweaks, it's a slippery slope. Where do you want to end? When you start getting into these cars and suspension, you want to keep it streetable. Do you want to make it more for the track? Do you want to autocross it? What do you want to do with it?
Well, this paint is so clean, so it's like, I mean, are you going to rallies in this car, or are you more like, hey, this is a shine and show cars and coffee car? What's your opinion there?
Well, I kind of wanted this car to be a touring car. Something that I could drive and enjoy looking at it. When you start walking away from a car and you don't look back, and it gives you that little grin, maybe something's wrong. And there are some angles on this car, and in the right light with the lines on this car, it really puts some smiles on my face. As far as driving it hard, I think that it's definitely capable. I think it's kind of like, make of it what you want. Some folks will make a car a perfect 4 out of 4, you know, if you rank cars, you know, 1 through 4. I like cars that are number 2. This car, I think, is a very, very strong number 2 car with good bones, you know, being out of California and not having a real problem with rust out there. And you could drive it. You could drive it and enjoy it. And that's what it's all about. If you're not driving it and you're just polishing it and cleaning it, if you get a little brake dust on it, then you're really not enjoying what these cars are built for.
I agree. I mean, you know, that's my belief system on these cars. Early on in my life, I was more of a, hey, I want to detail the car and just stare at it, but not these days. So let me ask you this, like, what's been your favorite memory that you've had in this car?
Wow, so many. Taking my son out in the car with the roof off, and he's looking at the stars, and he's picking out his favorite track on his phone, and he's getting into some classic rock, and he put on some Eagles, and he knows all the words to the Eagles song, and he's singing while we got the roof off and just traveling down some back roads here with some beautiful weather. I'm going to remember that forever. And the process, I think that if you're really passionate about this stuff and you have good constitution to, you know, constitutionally to stomach some rough stuff, you know, you can go through a whole restoration, or even just owning the car. Sometimes it's a constitutional test to see how much you can take, and it'll test you. But you know,
hey Howie, if people watching this video have been watching my channel, they know exactly what the hell you're talking about. I've been through the ringer too.
Yeah, and so you know, just going through some challenges. We worked through 3 different CIS issues, and the motor was in and out of the car 3 times trying to figure out some issues there, and it was a grind. But now it's sorted and it's wonderful. So I feel like, you know, you put your dues in when you take on a project, and anyone who's done something, you know, various magnitudes, you know, for everything from a rotisserie to just a good solid restoration, you know you're in for a ride.
So let me ask you this. I mean, is there anything else that you feel like you wanted to do that you haven't done to this car, or is it complete?
That's a fantastic question. So I had a punch list, and you know, I've had the car since 2018, and I've just continually gone through the punch list. There are a few little things, you know, that I might consider doing. Some rubber bushings underneath the car. Nothing major.
All right, man. Well, it's a beautiful car, and I appreciate you letting us take a look at it.
Thank you.
All right, so there you have it. Howie clearly put tons of time, thought, money, energy, and effort into this car. And as promised, I tell you how you can request more information. So if you want to learn about pricing, if you want to get more information on the car and be connected with Howie, shoot me an email at therenthusist@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for you that I can, and then of course I'll be happy to connect you with Howie. So hope you've enjoyed this video. These 911 owner interviews are really close to my heart. I love seeing the passion and hearing the stories behind these cars. So, you know, again, if that's your kind of thing, if you enjoyed this video, please of course like the video to help me spread the good word about air-cooled, and of course subscribe to this channel if you want more of this. Hope to see you next time.